Hi, Bill. I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. Good. Your lighting is better than mine.
Ah, I'm always in the same spot, so I've got used to it now.
Yeah.
Maybe we could kick off with a brief introduction to this film, Our Son. For people who don't know anything about it, what can they expect when they watch it?
So Our Son, it's a drama about the two husbands played by Billy Porter and Luke Evans who are going through a divorce and trying to figure out custody of their 8-year-old son.
Read somewhere, almost seeing it kind of a queer counterpart to Marriage Story in some respects. So it's really kind of
Yeah.
a very, very nuanced portrayal of kind of the nitty gritty. This is not sort of a rainbows and unicorns representation of marriage and bringing up a child.
Yeah.
I wonder for you, what was the first germ of the idea? Why did you want to tell the story?
Yes, so my co-screenwriter Peter Nikowitz and I wanted to make a movie that was close to home and reflected our community, but also depicted something we hadn't seen before in a feature film, which was two men raising a child and going through a divorce and trying to figure out their relationship for the sake of the child. With the right to marry comes the right to divorce. We hadn't seen that before, and we were curious to explore what that would mean for a gay couple. Show that the end of a relationship can be just as important and beautiful as the beginning of a love story.
And I believe, it was kind of quite a lengthy process because all films are, 5 years or so in the making. What do you think that was that time? Was there kind of challenges to getting funding for a film like this? But then you've got, some incredible stars attached. So perhaps that helped. What was the
Yes.
process? How did you get it off the ground?
Yes, so it started with a script and working with our producer Fernando Loureiro, who has been with the project from the beginning, and then we had Billy Porter become attached to the project, and after him Luke Evans, and that really got the film off the ground with investors, and we did have. You're absolutely correct. It was about 5 years, and it started pre-COVID. During the pandemic, we had a bit of a pause, and then it picked back up after when everyone was shooting again, and we were able to secure all the financing. So it was in America, it's making an independent film is just about scrapping it all together, and I credit the producing team and Universal for helping us get it off the ground. And we shot, I guess, 2 summers ago in New York. And it was a lovely production. It was, very indie. And the two actors were amazing and troopers. And Luke even said it was the best shoot he'd ever been on. And of course, he's been on huge things. But we put together a family, a very small crew. I wanted it to be very intimate to reflect the story in a way. And I think the actors felt that, and they just, had that sort of cozy family feeling. So despite all the normal challenges, it was a good shoot.
And how do you see the landscape, and how is your film kind of symptomatic of maybe where we are? I mean,
Yeah,
in the fact that this is two openly gay actors playing the parts,
yeah,
there's been so much debate over that in the past,
yeah.
need a straight actor, and also what kind of stories you can tell. Perhaps in the past, it felt like, there was some stereotypes or some tropes that seem to be repeated a lot, where we do seem to have gotten to a place now where we are getting more nuance and we are getting
Yeah.
different types of storytelling coming through.
Right. So yes, two things. We wanted to move beyond sort of coming out stories and first love stories and tragic, period, stories that you've often seen with queer films, and show like a mature relationship and a family and sort of more of a slice of life of just like, these are people like anyone else just trying to keep their heads above water in the world today, So, we're just going to drop in, and, we're not going to explain anything. It's just, this is a family going through this situation. And with the casting, yes, it was important to me that we cast out gay actors in the lead roles, and in all the roles that are, gay and lesbian characters in the film, which, has been, quite, a controversy and everything. But for this particular film, it was important to have that kind of authenticity because it's a very intimate, real life drama. So I wanted it to feel real and lived in, and, we were so fortunate to have these two, because it does sort of limit the pool when, when you're talking about needing to get an actor or actors of a certain caliber to help get your film made. There really aren't that many quite yet, but it says something about progress that there are some. And that these two actors, Billy and Luke, were able to headline the film and get it made, help get it made, and also Billy, they recorded a song together, which was a duet. So there were a lot of sort of firsts with the movie, which is exciting.
And coming to each of your casts, I mean, Billy, I guess, perhaps we more associate with more sort of comedy or light-hearted stuff. This, a real sort of dramatic role. So what was it like working with him and seeing him step into those sort of the shoes of that character?
Yes, it was so exciting, because I remember our first Zoom meeting where he was saying that he really responded to the script because it sort of tapped into sort of a quieter side. The character, being sort of the stay-at-home dad, and having sort of a domestic side and a quieter side. He has that, but he doesn't show it very often, or people don't see that very often. So he was excited to show that side of himself, and that's always exciting for a director, to be able to show the world another side of an actor that we associate with certain types of roles. I mean, he's so versatile, and he's a trained actor from Carnegie Mellon, which is a wonderful acting school in the US. And he's just multi-talented. And it was very exciting to give him the opportunity to play something like this that was very different for him. But he also still brought his humor and, everything to it. So, it was perfect.
And Luke Evans, I mean, he's one of these actors, he's kind of hard to pigeonhole, actually. He seems to have done a little bit of everything. I heard him in an interview once, actually, talking about the thing that he sort of gets stopped in the street for most is playing garçon. So,
Right.
So, but what was it like, working with him? And I guess, he brings all those different elements to a role like this.
Yes, I mean, same for him. It was great. I knew his work, and I went, before we met, I tried to see everything that he'd done, and I was like, oh my gosh, he's garçon, he's this, he's sort of so many different types of roles, and but again, I hadn't quite seen anything like this, so I was very excited, and he was very excited to show, this side of himself. He's been out for a while, but sort of people don't, I don't think he's maybe played one or two gay characters, but not mostly. He plays straight characters, and so he was excited to do this, and really put his heart into it, and was so vulnerable in a way that was incredibly moving, because he's such a kind of a hunk. So it was like I hope that he can bring that vulnerability, and he really did. He's an incredible actor. I was amazed, really. The chemistry between the two of them was wonderful, because they're so different. They're just different styles, different flavors. So but the chemistry was exciting.
Yeah, it was going to be my next question. And I guess, was there like kind of a rehearsal period to sort of, be able to pull that off? Because of course, it's not like when two people are meeting and you're seeing their love story. We need to believe that there's been all this history and all that time spent together, and the performances in that sense are really phenomenal. So what was it like, making sure that all really landed on screen?
Yes, well, that's always so hard, especially when you're working with actors who are so busy and they're moving from one project to another, to be able to get them together and sort of develop that chemistry. And exactly like you said, I really wanted, again, the realism and the lived-in quality. It was very important to me. So I wanted, the audience needed to believe that this is a family, and they've been a family, and these two have been together for 13 years. I got them together on Zoom a few times, and we talked through the script, and that's where they first met, on a Zoom meeting with me, just sort of like this. But immediately the chemistry was there, so it was kind of breathed a sigh of relief, because if it's just naturally there, then it's that moves it along so much. And then Luke came a few days early to New York for the shoot, and Billy was on the 4th of July, and Billy invited him out to his house for a barbecue, and they had a whole day together. And so, that just squeezing it in wherever we could like that. But yeah, that just even a few hours makes a big difference instead of just the two of them who are supposed to be romantic, leads meeting 5 minutes before you shoot the first scene. So by the time we started rolling, they were friends. And then, same thing with the child. We tried to get them together as well so that they could, they felt like they were real parents to this boy. Yeah.
And on the shoot, were there some real highlights, a real favorite moment? And on the flip side, was there anything that was particularly challenging?
Yeah, so I mean, there were so many highlights. I mean, it was such a privilege for me to be able to work with such an amazing cast, and just to sort of bear witness to them, because a lot of them knew each other from like the New York theater world and like the friends, and they hadn't seen each other in a while, so it was kind of a reunion. And again, it was a project that was very meaningful to all involved, both cast and crew. So the whole shoot, the experience of it was kind of a highlight because it was very emotional for everyone, and that was one of the challenges, was just keeping it together for me. But also one of the highlights, just to watch this wonderful cast, do their thing. We had, well, of course, Felicia Rashad, who's, an iconic in the US. She's sort of America's mother on our first day of shooting, and she was wonderful. She sort of set the tone for everything. That was a highlight. I mean, the challenges, of just the usual, production, shooting in the summer on location in New York City during sort of post-COVID times was, that was, we had a bit of scheduling and scrambling and things like that, but and an amazing team we were able to get it done with just like really just we were one day off in terms of our schedule due to COVID, but it's just one of those sort of miracles of movie making that you think it's all going terribly awry, but that it somehow just comes together.
In terms of the takeaways, I mean, I guess, making that comparison with Marriage Story, it's like really getting into the knotty aspects of relationships. And it's not necessarily this black and white thing of, the villain and then the hero. There's so much you can relate to from both characters' perspective. But then I guess in addition to that, we're then also seeing this in the fact that it's a gay couple. And what are society's expectations? Is there an expectation that everything has to be perfect? Or there's that line that says, you fought all this time to have a marriage and now you're going to give up on it. And it's like, well, just because, it doesn't mean that you don't have the same challenges that every relationship has.
Right. I mean, that's sort of the point of the movie, I think, is that we're all human. And I think it's, there is this pressure that I think gay people and other minority groups feel sometimes to be perfect in order to be accepted. And I wanted to celebrate our flaws and our failures as much as our successes, because that's what makes us fully human. So I think that, that's sort of the point of the movie, really, to me. It is messy. And we're all just trying to, do our best to keep our heads above water, on a daily basis. So it has this sort of everyday quality to it that, I think, I think that's important, and moves things forward a bit in terms of representation of the queer community in film.
And I guess these age-old questions of, you're raising a family, of the division of labor and the division of duty, and it's not clear now in heterosexual relationships the same as in gay relationships. I've got a 3-year-old son and we're constantly having the same old discussions, and you think, was it easier in the past when there was just, okay, well, you're staying at home and you're working and you're looking after them or not, and we're still battling that out, in every family.
Yes, it's very relatable. And I was a co-parented. I have 2 sons that I was a sperm donor to a lesbian couple and helped them raise them. So we had, so the parenting side of the film was very personal for me. And it was having, showing these 2 fathers with very different parenting styles was a way for me to sort of explore my own feelings about being a father, which is something that as a gay man, I never really expected to have, because it was 20 years ago that we did it. So back then it wasn't very common. We didn't know that many other people, and when I grew up, it was sort of like, oh, I'm gay, I'm not going to have children. That was just sort of that's what it meant. And so it was just kind of, this remarkable thing that happened, that I had this opportunity. So, but yes, when you raise kids, it's sort of, you realize, oh, it's all out the window who you are. It doesn't matter. It's just the same challenges on a daily basis, really.
Finally, having it showing as part of BFI Flair, and I guess in your film, as you're kind of mentioning there, as part of a particular section of cinema, and how it can add to the conversation on representation or discussions. What do you hope the impact of the film to be?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that things are sort of a little bit bleak around the world in terms of LGBTQ sort of rights, and things are kind of somewhat under threat, and there's dehumanization happening. So I think just humanizing us is important, and it's sort of like the way to change people's hearts is to know a gay person, or have one in their family, or a trans person, And I think movies can do this, have the same power, even though these are fictional characters. For the course of the movie, you feel like you get to know them, and that's really how people change, is just through empathy. So that's what I hope. And it's a divorce drama, but it's not. There's so much suffering in the world. It's to me, the movie is not about suffering, and I never wanted it to be about that. It does get into the rough parts of it, but it ends hopefully. So and that was important to me all along, and something that was important to the actors too. Billy Porter especially talked about that, and he wrote a song called "Always Be My Man," which plays at the end, and it's kind of captures that feeling that we wanted at the end of the movie. People walk away feeling like, oh, just because they broke up doesn't mean they can't find a way forward. So.
And in terms of your next projects, have you got something percolating? You're waiting for the dust to settle on this one?
Yeah, both. Yeah, so we're things are percolating. We're working on a few things, my writing partner and I, and I'd love to tell more stories like this. They can be challenging to get made, but there's so many stories of the queer community that haven't been told. So I would love the opportunity to do more. So we have a few things we're bouncing around, but nothing lined up quite yet. So yeah, the dust is still settling, as you say. Yeah. The fairy dust.
Thanks so much for sharing all that with me.
Yes, of course.
Want us to see our son. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you so much. Good to see you.
See you. Thank you. Cheers.
Yes.
Bye.